Hi my loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful gown. Do subscribe to the channel, share to friends, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. First I did was to mark the full length of my gown. I folded my fabric into two, marked the full length of my gown. The full length I'm working with is 58 inches, including my seam allowance. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do now on this start point line is I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder measurement is 16 inches. When I mark it, I will have 18 inches. 16 divided by 2, half of it is 8 inches. So from that 8 inches, I'll come down to 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then on the shoulder line, I'm also going to mark my neck width, which is 3 inches. So from 3 inches, I'm going to be connecting to the 1 inch shoulder slope I have. And this is what I have. Now from that 1 inch, we are going to go down to your armhole measurement, and mine is 7.5 inches. Divide what you have on your bust by 6, add 1.5 inch to it. Okay, so on this chest line, I'm going to also mark half of my shoulder measurements, which is 8. All right, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to connect it to my shoulder slope using a straight rule. And this is what we have. Now the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to divide what we have on our armhole into 2 to get the midpoint. So this is our midpoint. From the midpoint, we're going to come in by 1/2 inch. From there, we're going to connect to our shoulder slope. Then from there, we're going to be making a curve into our armhole measurement. And this is what we have. Now on this point now, we're going to insert our bust measurement, which is, that is your bust measurement divided by 4, quarter of your bust measurement. Mine is 8.5 inches. And I'm going to add my seam allowance. So for this, I'm working with 2 inches seam allowance. Alright. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is from my shoulder line, I'm going to go down to my waist measurement, which is 16 inches. Then from the shoulder line again, I'll go down to 24 inches for my hip measurements. And this is what we have. So on the waist measurement, I'm going to insert my waist measurement, divide by 4, and I have 7.25 plus 2 inches seam allowance. The same thing I'm going to do on my hip line. Okay, on my hip line, I'll divide whatever I have as my hip measurement into 4 plus my seam allowance. So my hip, I have 9.75 plus 2 inches seam allowance. And this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do now is to connect these 3 points together. That is from my chest line, which is the bust, to my waist, from the waist to the hip. Okay, now from this hip, now I'm going to go down all the way to the base of my gown. But before we proceed with that, on this armhole area, I'm going to go ahead to add 1/2 inch. This 1/2 inch is for stitching allowance or joining allowance with my lining piece. Okay, so when I turn it out with the lining, I'll still have my shoulder measurement intact, because this is a sleeveless gown. So this is what I have. Okay, and I'm going to go down to my hip measurement, and I'm going to connect all the way to the base of my gown. So from here now, I'm going to measure what I have on the base of my gown. This point, so I'm going to connect that over here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out this piece. So for this my shoulder line now, I want to add a few points to it. This is actually a sleeveless gown, okay? So the usual way to do this is your waist, your shoulder line is 8 inches. How do I do this now? I made a mistake. So now earlier on, we marked 8 inches as the shoulder measurement of what we have. Okay, so this is our normal drafting, but because this is a sleeveless gown, I'm going to be removing 1 inch from my shoulder measurement. All right, so we have 8 inches as our shoulder measurement. We're going to remove 1 inch, making it 7 inches. All right, but because you're going to be joining this to a lining piece, or because you're going to be turning out the armhole area, I'm going to mark 7.5 inches. But while working on a sleeveless gown, note that you're going to remove 1 inch from your actual shoulder measurement. That is half of your shoulder measurement. All right, but I'm using 7.5 inches. Half inch is for my seam allowance. All right, so we'll still go ahead and do what we have earlier. All right, so 7.5 inches here. We'll come down to 1 inch, which is our shoulder slope, our chest line, which is our 7.5 inches. Okay, that one still stands. The only thing that changed is your shoulder measurement. So we have 7.5 inches here. 7.5 inches here. Connect to this point. Sorry, please. Then divide it again to get the armhole, to get the midpoint. Then from the midpoint, you come in by 1/2 inch. Connect to your shoulder slope and retrace. So now this is what we have. We'll proceed to cutting this piece out. The next part is cutting out our piece, that is the front piece, because the one we cut out earlier was our back piece. Now we're cutting out our front piece. I folded my fabric into two, placed my back piece on top of the folded fabric, okay? But before placing it, I left 1/2 inch. This 1/2 inch is for my zip allowance, alright? Because we are turning this out to the lining and we're going to be putting the zip inside the lining piece, okay? That is why I left just 1/2 inch for my zip, alright? So we'll go ahead now to cut this out. So guys, now the next thing I'm going to be working on is on the neck piece, okay? So for my back neckline, I'm going to be working with 1.5 inches zip, and I'm going to connect it to my neck width. I'm going to make my curve. Then for my front neckline, I'm going to be working with 3 inches. I'm also going to go ahead and connect it to my neck width. But note that for you're going to cut out your back neckline separate. You keep it aside. Then go ahead and cut out your front neck. So first thing first, I'm going to remove is the 1/2 inch we have for our zip. Then I'm going to mark my 3 inches for my neck width. Then I'll connect it to my 3 inches depth. Then I'll cut out. And this is what we have. So proceed to cut out a lining piece for your dress. This is my front piece, okay? This is the front piece we had earlier. And this is our zip, which is going to be on the front piece. That is why we had this slit in front, and we're also going to have a slit. So I'm working with a zip of about 30 inches long. So I'm going to place it on top of this. This is to help us know what we are doing. So I'm going to flip this zip over this way, because this is how it's going to be. And I'm going to turn this side with a lining piece. So what I have to do at this point is to open up my zip, because it can open up entirely, and this is what I have. Alright, so I'm going to place it just the way we fix our zip That's how I'm going to place it. And I'm going to be introducing my lining piece to this now. So this is my lining piece, all right, and I'm going to place it on top of the zip. That means the zip is in between my lining piece and my fabric. Now what we have to do is we're going to go ahead and run a stitch on it all the way down to the base of the gown, all right. But before doing this, before running a stitch on it all the way down to the base of the gown, I'm going to first of all stitch the base of the gown. At this point I'm going to stitch this first thing first before running a stitch on this zipper area. But note that the zip is in between your main fabric and your lining piece. Okay, so I'll do that and also run a stitch on the neck area and the armhole area. So now at this point now I'm going to join my zip to my dress, and this is what I have. This is one side of it. This is what the inside looks like. I want to turn it out. This is what it looks like. This is the arm area. You can decide to turn this side out, or you can decide to also use a weaving machine to interlock the edges, which I'm going to do. I have my reasons for that. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce this other side of the dress, which is this. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and join the two, like close off my zip together. So all I have to do is from the bottom here, I'm going to fix the zip and I'll close it up. So this is what we have. So the next step now to do is you're going to go ahead and introduce your back piece, join them shoulder to shoulder, all right. So loves, this is what we have. This is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the inside looks like, and this is our slits, all right. So this is what the slits also look like. So go ahead and iron it down very well and proceed to joining your front piece, which is this, to your back piece. Okay, now the next thing you have to go ahead to do is to shape your dress after joining these two shoulders together. That is the back shoulder and the front shoulders together. I went ahead to mark my shape line. Okay, so when I'm done marking, I'll go ahead to run a stitch on it. Loves, the next thing I went ahead to do was to join my shoulders together, after which I shaped my dress, and I fixed the pockets to my bow. From what we have on the thumbnail, there was no pockets, so the pocket is optional. So this is what the inner piece of our dress looks like. Now we'll turn it out and it's ready to be worn.